Hi, my name is Joanna Whitney. I am an intuitive artist, a student of natural law, and an energy practitioner. And to be honest, I've been flummoxed for the last 7 days or so as to how to proceed with this series because I came to a complete grinding halt. Basically because of what I came to this morning. Let me turn off the tracker here. I do have a de-Googled phone. I will say that. Um, a de-Googled Pixel 7, which I don't really like very much. I did like having my ass wiped by the iPhone, but I decided to try to extricate myself from the convenience machine. Um, so, excuse me. This is my cat, Chi. He likes to sit above me. Um, so, we're doing the natural law violations, of which they are murder, trespass, theft of property, coercion, assault, rape, and deception. And I will just, say that some of them kind of are repeats of each other here. There's really only five, but deception and uh, coercion are pretty much the same thing. Theft of property, trespass, and assault are kind of similar. Um, but they're all sort of broken down into each other. And then I'm also looking, the point of doing this series was to talk about how individual regular people can look and make sure that they're not violating natural law. But the reason I came to an end point was because I have to talk about God now. And I have avoided this for the whole time I've been doing this channel because I don't want to be labeled as some kind of religionist or whatever. I'm not a religionist by any means. Um, and I'm not going to try to push people into any kind of specific God. That's for you to figure out for yourself. But we're at this point now where I think the reason I was completely flummoxed was because um, I really can't talk about this stuff anymore without talking about how I rely 100% on unseen forces, God. I call it God, whatever it is, um, elementals, nature spirits that all work for God, Pan, whoever. I talk to them individually about animals and insects and things like that. Um, God, nature, spirit of nature, whatever it is to you, I really don't care. And it can change, I like the JC dude a lot. He's a good friend of mine. I believe he came here to show humans how to live by natural law, if he actually came here. I really don't know. How could I know? Because, the books have all been doctored. I'd have to be a high level Freemason to have the actual books at this point to know what actually happened. But I don't need any of that stuff because I have my heart and my mind, and I've been practicing meditation for many years and art, and I have a direct connection to that higher power, whatever you want to call it. So at this point, I do have to talk about that because 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 of what's going on, you know? I don't really think anyone can survive out there without a higher power of some kind. And again, I'm going to do a separate video or series of videos that I think are going to be maybe unlisted, and I'm just going to put the links in the description that will provide a way for people to have a spiritual experience that is stripped of um, all religionist vibes. I do know how to do that. Um, so I'm going to do that separately because I have no idea who my audience is. I don't know. Some of you may rely 100% on God like I do, and some of you may have no experience. So that's why I've avoided it. I mean, I have talked about it a little bit because I can't avoid talking about it, but now the way things are, that's the only thing I can say because um so how I came to that was this morning actually um because I was thinking about how things are now, and I also watched Mark Passio's latest documentary that he made with I don't know who it is. I'm going to post it in the description. And he was saying that every morning he wakes up and he feels really dejected. And I do too. I do too. Okay. Um, because like say Derek Bros, for example, recently I think was talking about exit and build again. That's what we would have to do. And here in Colorado and Denver, they just installed all these flock cameras and all this other crap. I don't know. I'm really not paying attention to it because it would make me go nuts if I paid close attention to it. But in order to exit and build, we would have to be a group. We'd have to be a community. We'd have to get along. We'd have to meet in person on a regular basis. And that simply is not happening. Okay. And it's just depressing to me. It's totally depressing. And what Mark was talking about the freedom community, I mean, I totally get that. He was talking about maybe the higher level fake ass freedom community of Alex Jones and Joe Rogan, whatever the hell they are. I don't really know. I mean, I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt, but my intuition tells me anybody who can makes a lot of money is likely a part of the controlled opposition. And just things I've experienced with Mike Adams and Alex Jones when they would predict something and then it would not happen. I just don't trust anybody. I go with my intuition on that, okay? And I ask if I need to be concerned or how I should, what my intuition has about that person. And those people I can't trust, except maybe there's a tiny kernel of truth in what they say. Um, and then the people in my own town, we used to get together, but it never worked out because we couldn't use something like formal consensus, which I shared about. I shared that whole book, Formal Consensus, which was created by C.T. Butler in the 60s or 70s to help a grassroots movement called Food Not Bombs to self-govern. And but it requires a great deal of patience. And people in the collective, even in the freedom community, simply don't have that anymore. Um, so we no longer meet in person. Not as far as I know. I mean, I think there's a few groups of people that meet in person, um, that share other common interests together, maybe a younger crowd. But um, I haven't found myself able to be a part of it. because I don't share their other extracurricular activities that they do. So, yeah, and I was like booted out of a stands up group up north, basically. I mean, it was just the personalities. There was just like I just could not get a stronghold. We tried to do a barter market, barter currency using the Ithaca hours. People would not take that leap to barter because they're too tied into the system, too full of fear about financial insecurity, which again, this goes back to God. The reason why I'm talking about this is because you have to have a reliance upon unseen spiritual forces in order to create community. You cannot be relying on yourself at this point because that's just not how it works in the universe. And so that's where I've come to. Like we can't we're community's been completely destroyed. I'm saying it, okay? Um, we don't meet anymore in any of the groups. Um, the groups always were looking for a leader, but then there was nobody good enough to be a leader. That's true. Like you can't rely on a human being to be the leader. You know, even Mark Passio, like he doesn't want to be a leader. He wants the leadership within each individual person to come out so that we can each be leaders together. But the only way to do that, honestly, is if each person has a reliance upon God. Call it whatever you want. He Mark talked about this somewhere in there. Okay, I don't remember where it was. Maybe it was in I don't remember. I just remember him talking about this. A relationship between, and this is paint. I've got paint on my fingertips. Sorry about that. Being an artist. Um, a relationship between two people. Okay, here are the two people. But their reliance has to be on a higher power in order for their relationship to work. I have this with my husband. You know, my husband and I do not have anything in common really, except God. That's it. Really, it's true. Uh, we we're complete opposites. We share some bad habits together, but we don't really have anything else in common, except like he knows what's going on in the world, but he doesn't research it like I do. He knows because he was in the military during the Cold War, so he knows what's going on because he's smart. Um, but we both rely 100% on God, and that's what keeps us together. So, um, that God thing, that's where we get the source. That's the source of our love for one another is here, God. And yeah, it's very risky because, you know, at some point, either one of us could like suddenly stop believing in God, and then that would be the end of the relationship, probably. Although, you know, in sickness and in health, I mean, it's possible that one could hold up their end for a while until the other one went back. But that's basically, you know, I'm not going to theorize about that because um, I've seen it done. Let's put it that way. It requires great fortitude. Um, however, the point is that's what's got to happen to create unity in a group is that the group of people has to have a reliance upon God and spirit. You could use spiritual principles like natural law are spiritual principles. That's what that is. Um, you have to be connected to your heart, which is where God is, in the heart. The heart, and I'd say the right brain or whatever, however it works. I'm not really clear how it all works. I mean, Mark has laid it out really well, and I really have learned a lot. And my own experience, it's the heart and the right brain connected, and through the chakras. Um, the intellect is the main issue, the problem. The main issue is the intellect. And if you have an overdeveloped intellect, then it's going to be harder for you to connect with these unseen forces. But it is possible because I did it. If I can do it, I think almost anybody can. There are a few people who are too smart for this. They have to be beaten down through attempts to live life by their wits and getting it smacked in their face over and over to get to a point where they can surrender. But most people, I mean, Mark's pretty smart. So he's been able to surrender to natural law. So um, you have to have a faith in spiritual principles and or and or spirits, a spirit, a higher deity spirit or whatever, or like universal intelligence or whatever, to be able to practice these spiritual principles. Why? I mean, first of all, because I can't rely on humans. These days, people, my experience, they're all out for what they can get, okay? And I'm coming from what can I give? And um, they'll just take full advantage of me and wring me out. And then when they're done with me, they'll just cast me off. And they won't even know that they're doing that because it's being totally supported on every front in the media and on the internet, everywhere. So my reliance has to be 100% on God. God is the source of my supply. And people come and go, and I get disappointed for sure. I get very disappointed um, and sad. I get my feelings hurt. Um, but my reliance is on God. So, like Mark said in this latest documentary that he wakes up early in the every morning and he's totally dejected. I do too, but I have to then I can't stay in that place and survive. I have to um and I'm sure he does something like this too. He otherwise you would die, I think spiritually if you didn't have a way out of that. I have to go to God. I have to like renew my commitment every day through prayer and meditation and live in the day. And then just try to be an example of natural law principles, spiritual principles. For example, my energy practice, I give a lot away for free. No one knows anything about the emotion code and the body code. So, they're not going to pay me my rate, $100 for a session, until they know what it is. So I give like 3 free sessions. And then I offer to teach people how to do the emotion code because everybody can learn that. All you have to learn is muscle testing. That's it. That's the thing, the main thing you have to learn for the emotion code. And so I do that. I offer free sessions and I trust that God's going to pay me. God's going to take care of me. Um, I mean, this has come over a long period of time. I came to this from intellectual pride and attempts to run my own life and not being able to. And again, I've mentioned this in the past. I came from a violent upbringing. Well, whatever I don't call it an upbringing. It was like a reducing. I mean, I was not raised, okay? I was lowered. So I came from trying to live life from that trauma and what it did to me, which it gave me a mild case of multiple personality disorder. Um, and so my subconscious was constantly setting me up for failure because it believed that it was safer for me to be in a certain state of failure than it was for me to succeed. So, um, dealing with that over and over at some point just became overwhelming. And I got to like a life and death point where I couldn't go on living that way anymore. And I had to find a different way to live. And I found that way to live through natural law principles and dependence upon God. And then that took a long time for me to learn that stuff and learn to get to where I am now, where I completely rely 100% on God for everything. And that doesn't mean I don't have fear and anxiety and stuff like that now and again, but it's nothing like it used to be. And I always know it's just my body reacting to um, unknowns, trauma that's still left in my body, and I still have work to do with the emotion code and other methods, prayer, meditation, to, maybe get to the point where I don't have to have those physical reactions anymore. But yeah, that's where it's at. Like there's nothing more I can really talk about unless I freely talk about God, my reliance. And I have to say, the dark occult Luciferians want to make sure that the collective does not believe in God. And they don't. The collective does not believe in God. That's obvious. You know, they like ChatGPT, okay? They want ChatGPT to be their God because they want to be able to talk to God in English, typing or whatever, and get answers right away. And that's not how God works. Um, Plus, like, they don't care about the earth, the nature, what this computer age and AI is doing to nature. I was reading this book this weekend, um, about Kong, which is a form of, I believe it's inner Qigong, basically. And it's about John Chang, who, man, I don't know if he's alive anymore or not. The Magus of, what was the name of that book? The Magus of Java is the first book, and this other book, Kong, is the second book, and it's written by this guy whose last name is Costa, and he's a Greek guy who studied with this Qigong master, Kong master, John Chang, who was able to practice pyrokinesis, in which he could use sword fingers. This is my purple paint. Sword fingers to light paper on fire. But it was mainly for healing that he used. His chi was so powerful that he could externalize it. And so I was reading that book, and I think I'm not sure how far Costa got in the levels with his master, but he was in the part of the book I was reading, he was on retreat in this cabin in Greece in the mountains, and a mining company started blasting dynamite a few miles below where he was on retreat. And he was disgusted by this, of course, the greed of humanity. They were mining for tin, and he had a lucid dream in which two elemental spirits of the mountain came to him and asked him why the miners were blasting the metal ore. And he said, I don't know if I can help you because I'm just because I'm human doesn't mean that I have any sway with these miners. Um, and the elementals told Costa that they need the metal ore to survive. I mean, imagine that. Imagine that. We're so separated from nature at this point and God that we just are just ravaging the earth for all of its supposed resources that we call resources. I mean, even that word, resource. What does that even mean? The earth is the source, and we continue to take from it for our own purposes. And the purposes really is for the dark occult Luciferians to create a virtual reality using machines to plug, it's just like the Matrix. It's basically the Matrix. That was a predictive programming movie. The data centers are going to require 40% of the water supply to cool the data center. People don't realize that, these new data centers that are going up in Texas right now. I don't know that Texas has the water supply to be able to um, supply the coolant for these data centers. Phoenix certainly doesn't, but maybe they're getting their water from Colorado, Maybe we're going to supply them with the water since we have aquifers underneath Colorado that are like oceans in the San Luis Valley. I have no idea what the hell, but this is insanity. This is complete insanity. It's obviously the collective is not reliant upon God in any way, shape, or form. They just want distraction. So, this is where I'm at now is that I'm going to start talking about reliance upon God. I'm probably going to do a series of videos for people who want to have a spiritual experience, and it will have nothing to do with any religion. You can have your own experience with it. And then I'll put a link to that in my description. And then I can go back to reviewing daily uh daily experience where natural law gets violated, because that's basically what I do on a daily basis is like, because my 100% reliance for my supply is on unseen forces, I have to keep my channel open all the time. And I live here in the system. I've already admitted that I'm a meat eater I have other problems that I have to deal with, and I've tried all that other stuff, and I'm not going to get into it. But, that's a violation of natural law right there. So I have to be pristine in all other areas um, to compensate for the violations of natural law that I'm a part of, uh, so that I can keep my channel open and stay connected. And let's see, is there anything else? I took some notes here to see if there was anything else. I don't know. I don't think there's anything else for today. I think that's all I got for today. So I'll be making that series I don't know if it's going to be one video or 7 videos, 7 separate videos with 7 separate lessons in them. I have to figure that out. But in the meantime, I'm going to be talking about God because, like, okay, yeah, one other thing I am going to say is like the only way to have community these days is to have your reliance and your source of power be God, because we have to stand up to people. People have been traumatized out of being moral. And so I have to be the one to be an example of morality for them. And they're going to, try to use me. That's what I was talking about. I was talking about, giving away energy healing, which is the way I make money. I mean, I am on Social Security now, thank God for that. Thank God. I mean, it's not really God. That was, back then when I didn't know what was going on and I allowed money to be taken out of my check for the satanic program of the government. But anyway, I give away a lot for free. But if I didn't have God, I couldn't do that because I'd have to be constantly thinking about where I was going to get it back from or how I was going to get it back, or I wouldn't be able to give to someone who couldn't pay me in some other way. But because I rely on God, I know that by giving, I will receive probably 3 times as much. And I don't need to know how that's going to work. I just know that it works. You reap what you sow. It's true. It's real. And it happened. Even though we're living in this fake ass monetary system, God doesn't really care because he needs me to be alive to carry his message. That's a whole other story for another time. I mean, a lot of people are waiting for the return of the Messiah. It's ridiculous. The Messiah, whatever. I don't want to get into all that. It's here right now in each one of us. Each and every one of us contains that, the principles of that quote unquote deity that's everybody's waiting to have come back because they're cowards. Yeah, Mark Passio woke me up about this. Cowards. We're cowards. We have it here within us. We're the Messiah that we're waiting for other people to come back. We're waiting for someone else to come back and be. We are it. Using natural law principles, connecting to source, God, we are the Messiah. But I can't do it by myself. See, I can't be that person by myself. I've already tried that, and I was the casting horse, which I'm not sure if any of you guys know what that means. You can look it up in the dictionary. It's horrifying. Okay, I stood up for principle just to test it out and see a couple of years ago, and I was used as a casting horse, meaning that a bunch of people told me that they would stand behind me if I would be the leader of the group that stood up. And so I agreed. I said, okay, fine. And I did. I stood up and I was relentless. And what happened was that group of people basically closed the doors behind me and left me outside because they don't have God. They use me as a casting horse. And what a casting horse is a rider and a horse that they send out into the minefield to see if there are any more live mines. And that's how I learned that we're so far gone down this road that you cannot stand up by yourself. Like I can't. I mean, maybe there are people that can stand up by themselves. It didn't seem to work for me. So now I have to kind of wait for people to show up who are willing to do an experiment or whatever. But I have to sort of trick them into believing that there's going to be something in it for them, because people aren't doing anything right now unless there's something in it for them, which is just not how the universe works. You have to look at nature. An apple tree, for example, is a great example of this. An apple tree gives way more apples than can be consumed by the people that consume apples. A lot of apples rot on the orchard floor. They feed the animals, they feed the earth. The apple tree, there's seeds in each apple. Each apple is a potential apple tree. There's so much to that, but that is nature. Nature gives abundantly. Okay. And we are supposed to do the same thing, but because we're in this monetary system and the dollar is being devalued, the fake ass green paper fiat currency is being devalued. Everybody's like, oh no, I have to save it all for myself. Where's mine? How am I going to get mine? Instead of freely giving. And so the more that you act that way, which is in the opposition to nature, the collective satanic ideology of de facto Satanism is going to become prevalent. The only way out is to act like the apple tree and give freely. And the only way to do that is to be connected to God, like the apple tree is connected to the sun and the roots into the earth. There's more to the apple tree analogy, but I'm not going to get into it right now. So, until next time.